Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Some context. I was 11 when this happened, and my mom was about 8-ish months pregnant with my little brother. Her live-in boyfriend was a massive waste of DNA, and usually took his frustration out on me, but he thought I was at Mima's, my grandma, because my mom's dietary changes while being pregnant were causing me health problems. I was over helping her with housework and had been playing games for about an hour at the time of the incident. So that jerk had gotten home at about 8 or 9 p.m. and he was already in a bad mood for some reason. My mom was going to see what was going on and asked him to stop shouting because last time the neighbors came over due to the noise volume, and she didn't want to have to explain that one again. Honestly, I didn't blame her. She's pregnant, her feet hurt, and she was in the hospital for kidney stones like 3 days before this happened, so she's tired and frustrated. Apparently, the jerk decided he felt the need to be mad at her and started shouting obscenities at my mother, which led to me grabbing the baseball bat I kept under my bed and sneaking closer to hear. Well, right as I got within range, I saw his hand fly up, and I had seen that gesture before. He was aiming to hit my pregnant mother, so my first reaction was to swing that bat into his leg as hard as I could. And when he went down, I hit him maybe 3 or 4 more times at full force, mind you. And even though I was a child, I was certainly not weak and knew to aim for his knees. And wrist, apparently. I nailed his left wrist at one point. My mother called Mima and 911, which resulted in a cop car and an ambulance. The cops asked what happened as they loaded the man into the ambulance, and he tried to say that I assaulted him unprompted. This was when Mima came to the rescue and interjected that one. I have never hit someone without being hit first. And 2, the jerk and my mom were constantly fighting. She then said they could ask the neighbors, who verified that statement. When the cops then asked why I hit him so hard it broke at least one knee for sure, I stated he could hit me, and I'll probably hide since he's bigger than me. But he was going to hit my mom, and she has a baby nearby. I didn't want the baby to get hurt, so I hurt him first and made sure he wouldn't do it again. My mom agreed to press charges for assault, child endangerment, and child abuse. The cops were also informed of how he verbally, mentally, and emotionally abused me, and Mima had at least one voice recording of this happening in the past. Now, I didn't go to the court cases because I was a child and everyone agreed to not bring in the children if it was avoidable. Which it was, since Mima had physical proof of his abuse. But later I found out that he was only allowed weekend visitation at my mom's convenience and had to pay child support. A few years afterwards, he got himself arrested for some reason and had his visitation rights revoked by the court. So yeah, do not attack my mom and don't screw with my little brother. My family will ruin you. Nothing was more gratifying than knowing that this man can no longer see his only child because he thought he could get away with being an abusive jerk. This happened a few years ago. I'm South African and we have very rigorous tenant protection laws. There is a body called a rental housing tribunal that handles disputes between landlords and tenants free of charge. At the time that this story takes place, South Africa had just introduced a new law called the Consumer Protection Act, which stated that all contracts could be cancelled with 30 days notice, but that a reasonable cancellation fee not exceeding 10% of the value of the remaining contract term could apply. I might not get all the legal jargon right. Apologies. Because of reasons, I had chosen to cancel my lease 5 months early and provided the rental agents with more than 30 days notice. They acknowledged receipt of my email. After I moved out, I requested that my deposit be refunded, and they refused, stating that I had forfeited my deposit by cancelling the lease. They sent me an invoice for a further 2 months' rent, as well as for the cost of advertising to find a new tenant. And they stated in the email that I was responsible for finding a new tenant and that I would have to pay additional rent for every month that the house was vacant. This was all pretty illegal. I couldn't afford to lose my deposit and definitely couldn't afford a lawyer. So I contacted the rental housing tribunal. They set a date for us to meet in a public building a week later. Now, meet the cast of this story. There is me, shabby-looking guy, alone, wearing cheap broken shoes. The agent, fancily dressed middle-aged woman. The lawyer, arrogant middle-aged guy in full formal robes. Madam Chair, short, modestly dressed woman, head of my province's rental house tribunal. And tribunal members 1, 2, and 3. Madam Chair starts. Thank you all for coming and being on time. Wow, we drove such a long time to be here. It was nice. And it's nice to see all of you. Is everyone comfortable? All nods and murmurs of agreement. She says to me, "You're the tenant?" "Yes, Madam Chair." "Okay, dear, we received your complaint. Have you ever spoken to the tribunal before?" "No, ma'am." "Okay. Many people do not know about the tribunal. How did you hear about us?" "I read the Rental Housing Act, Madam Chair." "Very good. You must know your rights then." At this point, I was kind of amazed at what was happening. I had been terrified of what was about to happen, but here was this important woman calling me dear, unironically, and generally just being really sweet. I was starting to feel a bit better when suddenly enter stage right lawyer, walking fast, carrying a briefcase, ropes billowing out behind him. He says, "I move to dismiss this case." "Hello, sir. And you are?" "I'm representing my client, a state agency name." "Oh, okay. Well, this isn't a court. We are mediating here." "We don't agree to mediation." Madam Chair looking confused. "You don't have to agree. We are empowered by the Rental Housing Act." Lawyer mumbles something and sits. Tribunal member 1 to the lawyer, "Have you received a written complaint?" "I have. The tenant claims that the Consumer Protection Act makes these invoices invalid. The Consumer Protection Act doesn't apply to lease agreements." Tribunal member 2, "Actually, sir, the Act refers to authorized governing bodies and empowers those bodies to make determinations individually." "You are not authorized." Madam Chair adds, "Excuse me, sir, we are in a library. The librarians have been kind enough to allow us to meet here, but you will need to be quiet. They can be dangerous." The members chuckle. "Well, if he," points at me, "wants to fight this, he can take us to court." Madam Chair, not losing her smile at all, "Sir, firstly, you'll address me as Madam Chair. Second, whether you personally recognize our authority is irrelevant. We are authorized to make this decision. If your client wants to keep her license, she should listen very carefully to what we're about to say." "The CBA doesn't apply. I'm not going to debate this with you people." Tribunal member number 2 says, "We're not debating, sir. We're ruling." And a third member chuckles. Madam Chair says to the agent, "You have acted illegally, ma'am. You will refund the tenant's deposit." "I'm within my rights to." Madam Chair cuts her off. "Order, please. You will refund the deposit within 48 hours. Furthermore," but the lawyer interrupts, "my client will do no such thing. Your client will comply with our ruling or we will garnish her income and she will lose her license." Tribunal member number 3 to Madam Chair, "She won't have an income without a license." "That is true. It will be for the court to decide how her obligations are to be met in that case. We would advise that she sign." Tribunal member number 2 handing the agent some documents. "You will notice that we have been lenient with the penalty." "So he will still pay the penalty?" "Good. No, ma'am. You will be penalized. We are authorized to award 2 months' rent as compensation and as penalty to you. The deposit will also be paid in full, plus interest at the standard rate." Madam Chair to me, "You were there for 7 months, correct?" "Yes, Madam Chair. 7 months interest then. Thank you all. This meeting is adjourned." The lawyer and the agent sign the forms and they storm out. Me to Madam Chair, "Thank you so much." She says to me, "My dear, we are all from this province. We're not rich people. I'm black, you're white, but we are citizens together, and we know what it means to suffer. These people who take advantage of us must know that we are not powerless." I tell her, "This sort of thing happens a lot in this town." "Really? Well, if you know of any other cases, please give those people our details. Many people do not know about the tribunal, and I really enjoy driving here." So here's a lowdown. I'm 28 female, my fiance 27 male, and I met our sophomore year of college and started dating post-grad. We have been together for 2 years. My fiance was not close with his family growing up at all. In the 2 years we have been dating, I have only met his parents like 3 times. That doesn't bother me, like I said. He has a lot of resentment due to his upbringing and just doesn't particularly like spending time with them. Nothing bad happened to him on their part, but outside of his basic needs being taken care of, there was little emotional support. Nothing bad happened to him on their part, but outside of his basic needs being taken care of, there was little emotional support. My fiancé was given a terminal diagnosis a few months ago with a 2-year life expectancy. Treatments are not an option, so we are just living life to the fullest. After he learned of his illness, he and his family have gotten a bit closer in that they see each other more often. His family, very wealthy, gifted us our honeymoon as our wedding gift. My husband and I chose Puerto Vallarta because we wanted a relaxing resort vacation and to go snorkeling together. One last bougie trip for our bucket list. But his parents also chose the dates of the honeymoon without asking us, so they chose to book the trip so that his birthday was during it. Then they said they wanted to spend his last birthday with him, so they also will be joining us. They did get their own suite at the resort, and both of his siblings got rooms at the resort too. Don't get me wrong, I'm really grateful they are gifting us this experience, but I'm annoyed they deliberately made it during a time they could conveniently join our honeymoon. I know he's sick, and I know they want to spend time with him. My fiancé won't say anything to them because he doesn't want to fight with anyone during his final time here, which I understand. I just wish they could have booked a separate trip for the family to go on rather than during our honeymoon, a time that we could have spent together alone, which honestly we rarely get these days. Between hospital visits and seeing friends and checking out things he wants to experience, we are pretty busy. Like I mentioned earlier, money is not an issue and could easily have been made into a separate trip. But they chose to make the trip during his birthday, so they had the excuse to join in. When they told us that they were also coming on a trip, I said that was a little strange. Now they are mad at me for not understanding how important it is for them to spend my fiancé's birthday with him. The entire family thinks I'm wrong for being upset about this. His parents have said I will barely even see them, so I shouldn't be upset. But we are all staying at the same resort, with rooms right next to each other. So I don't know, am I the jerk for telling my in-laws it's weird that they are coming on my honeymoon with us? And now some comments on the post. Someone saying, here is a hot take. This is a vacation. Treat it as such. If they are paying, great, enjoy it. Then go on your own honeymoon with just your spouse. Overall, while it's a weird situation, I get that they are desperate to squeeze out every last enjoyable second they can before they lose their child. Nobody's a jerk here. Another commenter adds, he's terminally ill. There is no guarantee of how much time he will have left, specifically how much time outside of a hospital he will have left. He could have the physical ability and stamina for a real family-free honeymoon after this, or he could not. If I were OP, I'd openly refer to this trip as a family reunion, not a honeymoon, and ask my soulmate what she would like to do for their exclusive honeymoon. A third commenter goes with, nobody's a jerk. I get that this is supposed to be your honeymoon, and therefore don't want your in-laws around, but if I'm reading this right, you are getting married around your husband's birthday and as such will be gone on his birthday. And his parents just want to spend what might be his last birthday with him. Could you see about not having rooms right next to each other? Because if that's the case, you literally might only see them when at designated meetup times. For example, dinner. Or I don't know how much vacation time and disposable money you have or anything like that. But if it's possible, maybe use this as a family vacation and then fly from there to your actual honeymoon vacation, or even look into staying a few days longer than what the in-laws will be in there for. A fourth commenter adds, nobody's a jerk. Wow, this is a hard one. I would step back from calling this a honeymoon and maybe treat it more as a family vacation or celebration. The very last thing your fiancé needs or wants is to be a cause of familial tension in his final month. You mentioned his family is quite wealthy. Perhaps you could talk with him and your fiancé and his doctors about what's going to happen over the next year or so and plan several bucket list adventures or activities for him. Some with just the two of you and they may join in others. This could include visits to childhood haunts or long-lost friends. Take his health into consideration, so perhaps a bit more active early on and maybe more cruises later. View it as a celebration of his life, not a farewell tour, and continually reevaluate the plans to make sure it's all positive rather than overwhelming. Just being there for him is what's important, not where you go. I'm so sorry you were struggling through this. I certainly wish you the very best of luck and as much quality time with your fiancé as possible. I lost my sister last summer. She had been diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, 1-year prognosis. We planned multiple outings with her, especially with her niece, but they never really came to fruition as the end came so much faster than anyone thought. While I wish we'd had more time, I was deeply touched and honored to help her through her struggles too. Even more meaningful than the trips would have been. Truly cherish and celebrate the time you have lived together now, especially the quality time. So this is my first post on this sub. Also, it's not really dramatic. I figure we could all stand to use some wholesome energy once in a while. I work DoorDash in a developing area in my city. Last night, every single order I got was a shop and deliver. For those unfamiliar, that's a type of order that's basically Instacart. We go into a grocery/convenience store and actually shop for items to deliver to the customer. I usually jump at these as they tend to pay incredibly well for the time required. Well, last thing I got 2 orders at the same time for a chain drugstore. Think a Greenwall. And I pulled up. First things first, my appearance. Anyone looking at me will be greeted by an overweight man wearing black gym pants and an unbranded black polo. This is important for later. So I walk in, and my luck, this location doesn't have any carts, meaning I have to find a way to balance everything between my arms. My luck again, the store recently installed those bad screens by the drink fridges. Literally massive screens that obscure the drinks themselves and show you pictures of where the items should be. They are almost never correct and are a massive pain, especially when they just play an ad for 10 seconds. Well, goody for everyone. The screens are dead, blank, not working. That means no one can see what's inside the fridge unless they open the door. Great design. 10 out of 10, so many notes. Well, as I'm looking for one of the drinks on an order, they were out. 2 young men, maybe late teens to early 20s, round the corner and immediately see the problem with the drinks. The following exchange takes place. Young man number 1 says, "Man, are they dead?" "Nah, the screens are down but the fridges still work." "Oh cool. Hey, where is the juice?" Me wanting to be helpful and thinking that he was talking to his friend. "I was just in this one and it's got the OJ if that's what you need." I left them and that was it. As far as I was concerned, nice little interaction, and it never occurred to me that they thought I worked there. Until a few minutes later. By now, I've got about 7 items in my arms, some of them more precariously than others. Well, as I enter the center aisle to start looking for the last item I need, I run into these guys again. And then we get to the "out of work here" moment. "Hey man, where are the toothbrushes?" I'm looking around trying to see where oral care would be. We're right in front of first aid and I know it's not there. Also, this is when I realized they thought I was an employee. The other guy asks, "Wait, do you work here?" "Nah, I'm just here for DoorDash." "Oh wow, we thought you worked here." "Nah, I get it. Carrying a bunch of stuff, Polo, you're cool. I think toothbrushes should be down there," pointing toward the front of the store. We went our separate ways again and I ended up right behind them in a line a few minutes later. Young man number 1 actually asked me a few questions about signing up for DoorDash and I hope I was able to help him out on that one.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.